AI, deepfakes, and digital identity theft are no longer future risk. They're happening now, ladies and gentlemen. And women leaders are uniquely exposed. So, in today's episode, we're going to break down how to protect yourself, your professional identity, how to leverage AI strategically, and close the growing gender gap in tech adoption before it compounds. I want to welcome author, friend, and leadership badass Sapna Malhotra. Sapna, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. Vicky, I'm a big, huge fan, follower, you name it, but I'm actually the biggest. I'm actually really great to call you a friend because I really enjoyed my time with you.
Oh, well, thank you. And likewise. I'm really excited to jump into this conversation today because there's, I think, so many myths, so many misunderstandings, but also so much risk that is involved with AI. And we're seeing it more and more, and it's getting harder and harder to detect. But before we jump into that, let's give the audience a sense of like who you are, where you came from, and why you have such passion about educating, especially women leaders around the risk and the use, because there's a lot of good with AI as well.
There's tons of great things about the AI, but no one does talk about the dark side. So my background is really, I am a consultant. I started off my career at Accenture, actually as an accountant. And then a partner, a female partner said, you don't have the personality as an accountant, and pulled me into the consulting side, right? Like that, it's
I
amazing
see
when someone
that.
sees that. And so she put me into the consulting world where I was dealing with financial services, but I knew how to explain GLs and technology. And I really learned to become a translator of multiple different things. And so I think that risk appetite, because when you're dealing with clients all the time, you kind of have to give them their blind spots about, well, what else should they be considering and all that, especially when you're building relationships, right? Like trusted relationships come from trust and that they know that you have their back and so on. So everything I've done in my career has actually all been by accident. Nothing's been by design. It's always curiosity has led me there and itself. And I do a lot of cleanups when it comes to digital transformations. And the word digital transformation means many things to many people, but at the end of the day, it's just putting in something that's going to change how somebody does something inside their organization. And I get a lot of resistance. Like it doesn't matter where I go, I always get resistance because you're like always going against the grain of how they normally do things and that change fatigue. And so I've kind of made a career out of fixing digital transformation messes itself. And really, when we talk about digital, it's like also the AI side of things and all of that. And there's so much people talk about the upside, but they don't talk about enough about the other side that we need to pay attention to because it's so easy to fall into the hype and you really get really excited that you can do all these things, but it's also intimidating. But then on the flip side is like, am I cheating? Am I faking it? Like, all that fear, especially women, right? We get this guilt complex, like, no, 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 we shouldn't be doing it. And, so everything I've been doing has been really by accidental and design and really to kind of create the awareness out there, especially for my nieces that, they're very young and they've grown up in this digital world and they don't realize the analog side of they having those guardrails because they haven't been conditioned to be able to see those things. And so this is where I kind of have been doing a lot more of this work in this area.
Lovely. Love it. I love it. And I mean, you've spent 30 years leading these transformations, which is amazing with some incredible organizations. You've said a few things there as you were talking, and my brain, of course, goes into overdrive.
Love
And
it.
when you were talking about how women in particular might shy away from or not adapt it as quickly, or that fear mode. And, a lot of times, like we as women, we tend to overcompensate. We are studying more, we have more degrees than most men. Like, so there is that side of us psychologically that I think, we are a little more risk adverse. And so you're also at that fear, I think, of being taken, being had. And we're seeing that more and more in even chatbots and different ways that it's showing up. But today, I really want us to focus on what have you realized as being some of the biggest risk in transformation, especially as it relates to the people? Like
Mm.
Where is this happening? What are those pitfalls or red flags people should really be paying attention to?
Well, here's the thing. Resistance happens from enabling technology, no matter what gender you are, right? So even from partners itself, they built their careers a certain way. And then you've got clients that they want the outcome, but they don't want the disruption, right? Like,
Mm.
like itself. And then you've got the project teams that are so stretched thin because you're supposed to do more with less and aggressive timelines because of all those pieces. And then you've got end users that reasonably ask, right? Like, why are we doing this again? Right? Like they're just so the change fatigue has really hit him. So I know this part is going to sound really counterintuitive. So I say this here. Women are not risk adverse. We're risk aware. And
Love
there's
that
a
reframe.
very big difference in that. However, we do get painted with that brush all of the time, right? Often, right? And it cracks me up because we're the ones that sense things a lot more differently. So what I'm going to say is counterintuitive is that a healthy dose of skepticism is actually a really good thing. Really, really good thing. And it tells you exactly where the trust gaps are, when itself, right? Like our gut instinct, whether it is from experience or from whatever it is, like women know how to read a room to understand what's kind of going on. And this is what really differentiates us from AI to begin with is empathy. Like, listen, I'm going to say it out loud. I really think women should be ruling the world because this is what needs to be is empathy. And, they always say in business, right? Focus on the facts and not the emotions, right? And I actually think the opposite. And this is where I built out this ROAR framework that I've been using with all my clients. And the first R is really reveal. Reveal the emotion, reveal the fear, reveal the excitement, reveal whatever it is that you're feeling. Because once we label what it is your gut is telling you,
Yeah.
then you know exactly where we need to kind of navigate through these challenging times itself. And I don't think enough people, we've been conditioned not to feel, not to do this, right? To kind of do the hustle, be transactional, outcome based, right? And not be able to kind of pause and reflect and kind of go, what else am I seeing? What am I feeling? Like, is it working? And this is where it's really important. And this is a big, huge pitfall for all the digital transformations and all these types of things or any kind of change is that no one's paying enough attention to the P's and the Q's. There's so much about where we need to get to and let's hustle and go as fast as we can that they're not actually taking a moment or time to kind of adjust to the audience, to what's actually happening, to the world events, right? We just kind of, here's the plan. This is what we said. This is where we need to go. And and we're women, we always kind of like adjust and adapt and listen to others, and right, we do these things a little bit more intentionally, and and we get a lot of criticism for it itself, that we're the slowing down and so on. So like I said, we are very much risk aware, and a healthy dose of skepticism is actually a very good and healthy thing.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And I love the reframe that you shared there with, being risk aware and, you are known as this reflective rebel and taking a step back. When you were saying that, one of the things that went through my mind and when I think back on my own corporate career, but also as an executive coach and a leadership coach, looking at where I see organizations having difficulty or making those big mistakes is they're so focused on short-term outcome versus really looking at what are the long-term objectives. That means along the way, you have to constantly be aware and doing course correction where required, but not just focusing on what's the immediate reward, that hit of dopamine, but
Mhm.
really focus on like, what are we trying to achieve in the long run? And there's a lot of controversy with AI in regards to that, right? Like we're moving super fast. It's accelerating incredibly fast, almost too fast that we lose a bit of control. And I mean, I'm curious, just your thoughts on, what are some of the things that are happening and linking it to what we were talking about earlier about how women are being uniquely exposed.
There's so much to unpack in that because really at the end of the day, there's so much going on in the space. So funny part is where we are today, we're on the slowest part of change. we're now, it's called compound interest. I'm putting my CPA hat on,
Yes,
right?
yes, love it.
Compound interest, right? Like it is going to continue to build and build and accelerate and accelerate. And that's why it's becoming so hard to not pay attention to AI because it's everywhere in the news, right? Whether it is displacing people or they're talking about the benefits or a new feature or new laws that are coming into place or whatever it is. And it's so many different types of categories because this is the world we've built. We built this world where we became very much from analog to digital itself, and we became transactional. We somehow, I don't know when we did this, we confused busyness with productivity.
Mm,
We ended up we go with this acceleration of speed and we think, oh, wow, that's a lot of outcomes, but we really didn't really achieve as much. It's just that we know how to justify our day somehow. And I remember thinking a while ago, about a year and a half ago, when did I agree to this pace? Like, when did
yes.
I, like, right? Like, when did I sign up? And did I sign a contract that said this is the pace that I'm going to do? Like, even my friends, they WhatsApp me and they expect a response in 2 minutes. And I'm like, you know what? Like, and this is kind of where that reflective rebel comes into place, is that it is so against our nature these days to slow down.
Yeah.
It has become such a rebellion for us to slow down because we feel guilty for not doing something because we should have been doing this. And if I was binge watching on a TV show or whatever it is, and I should have done the 50 other things that are listed on my to-do list, right? We automatically think we were not productive and we have this guilt, and it builds and it builds and it festers. But the truth is that even though the world has turned everything into demand, we actually are more lonely. We are more disconnected. We are, right? We're more depressed. Like, literally, human interaction and connection is like kind of a dying thing, and people don't even have those social skills anymore, like the younger generation, of how to even authentically connect. Like, you and I met a couple of times, Vicky, and we just kind of connected through our banter and our shared values. But that's because we know the art of just talking and getting
Yeah.
to know each other. Our values and our principles are very much aligned, and we take the time to hear each other differently. So when I asked myself that question, when did I agree to this pace in life? I actually had that moment that really stayed with me. But more importantly, it made me laugh with my nieces. When my nieces were little, okay, you're going to die of laughter on this one, because we were watching TV and a commercial showed up. It was a real TV. And they're like, what is this? Why is this little thing? They had no clue what a commercial was. No clue, because of that speed. So that concept of the pause was so foreign to them,
Yeah.
and it was amazing to me when I saw that I thought, oh my goodness, like, this is how they're growing up, that they don't even know how to pause. Like, their calendars are already back to back of being sports and doing something from the arts, and then they write music and school, and everything is so scheduled that there is no that free time of doing things. And I'll be the first one to say, I'm actually quite glad ads are back, because I am gives me a chance to not just pause, but I get up now and I get to do something for 2 minutes, like, and then restore the rhythm. And, they say the sitting is the new smoking, but that's the world we've built, right? As AI can generate that confidence within 3 seconds. And my friends expect me to respond to their messages in like 2 seconds. And everything is kind of have this sense of urgency. And what I've started to do is kind of like stop and go, I'm going to scope it, and then I'll get back to you or whatever it is, and then take the time to think about it, because is it really matching my sense of urgency? Like, if I miss a movie, do I care? No, I'll just get another timing of it, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, exactly. It's
never,
not like
right?
life or death.
Right. So that reflective rebel for us is that when in my ROAR framework, that's R.O.A.R, and it was intentionally put the dots in there for pauses. It is the
Love that.
real intentional piece that we are more intentional and better when we stop, readjust to look at what we can do, because we only have so much time as a capacity. We only have so much energy. We only have so many of these different things. And by the way, this is just not like a Sapna idea. Executive recruiters that I talk to all the time, because they're always looking for really great people, they're looking for those reflective leaders, that, right? Because they need those leaders to pause to see what's going on in the market scan and
Yes.
itself, right? Like, you can't just write a plan and call it a day itself. So basically, it works. The pausing is really intentional. It goes against our grain. It goes against, all of these different things. And it is so important for this in our relationships. Like when someone says something really nasty or negative, or, the backhanded compliments, like, you hear, I just smile and nod and absorb, because ultimately I don't know where that really came from. Do I really believe that that's really about me? And sometimes there is some truth to it, but I don't react because I don't owe somebody a response right away. I'm not on demand, and so I really kind of make sure I'm trying to harness those things, because you need to really be able to listen and hear things differently. And by the way, introverts, this is where they get the biggest competitive advantage over all of us
Yes,
extroverts, right?
100%. Yes, because they do take the time. They're listening, they're observing, they're paying attention to what's being said, how it's being said. They're assimilating all of that information at one time. Yes, love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of where it all kind of started to stem from, is like when I've been doing all these transformations and looking at what's actually happening. And I do a lot of board advisory stuff for me to turn things around, and I do have to talk to everybody and spend that time to build that trust for them and to find those quick wins, but to really hear where they're coming from in itself. And I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you heard of Bono's six thinking hats. It's like an old tool, right? It focuses on, what's the emotions, what's the benefits, what's the risk, right? What's the technical side. And it allows you to kind of look at things a little bit more differently, because the world needs us as humans, especially with the AI world, to look at things from that and not just use these tools blindly and copy and paste and go, that's the answer. This is not a cheat sheet. It's not a decision making tool. It is a tool to use you to get some of the drafts and the grunt work done and all of those pieces. But we control the AI. We need to oversee it. We need to make sure it's actually meeting our expectations itself, not the other way around. And I think the reliance on all these tools, because it's not cool to not be using it anymore, right? Like no one Googles things anymore. They chat GPT it, or they, all those different things. But it's just a little bit of insights, but not that it is the ultimate truth to anything that's being said. You need to still have critical thinking. You need to use your judgment skills. And
Yes.
this is where that kind of, we bring that back out.
Yeah. Again, you said a number of things there I want to highlight. I mean, when you were talking earlier about we're losing that human connection, and I'm doing my doctorate right now on trust power and what that invisible load is. Some of the research I've been doing is looking at, one example is Edelman's Trust Barometer. And they talk about in their Trust Barometer findings for 2026 is that 7 out of 10 individuals globally have an insular mindset. And so it's validating what you're saying, Sapna. You're seeing it, you're living it, but they've actually looked globally and done, extensive research on what's happening. And so those human connections are disappearing more and more. And to your point about intentionality, whether you're an introvert, extrovert, whatever, it's how are you making those connections, right? That is so important as we navigate, this next decade, that because we're moving at the speed of light, like it's so fast. The other thing that I want to highlight, like even a lot of the work that I do is helping leaders really become conscious. And so when you were talking about reactionary, that's one of the things that I focus on with leaders is helping them take that pause and really think about, how am I engaging? What is my default tendency? Am I highly reactionary, or am I thoughtful, responsive, slowing down enough to think about what's my best response to whatever this situation is? And I love what you were talking about there, like, because we are in a world where everything's faster and faster and faster. Social media, like, we're all like instantaneous gratification. And that's where, again, we get, I think, in trouble for ourselves because there's a lot of assumptions, interpretations that take place. And so it's like, how do we just slow that hamster wheel down enough to take a breath and go, So I love your roar methodology. And I'm gonna just flip us into your book. So you just did a whole rewrite. So Connect the Dots came out in 2019. What changed so dramatically that you sat back and said, okay, I got to update?
Yeah. Honestly, first of all, 7 out of 10. That I cannot believe that. That is really fascinating because it totally leads into what I'm about to say next about why did I write the next. It's because I believe we're really at a technology tipping point between technology and trust, 150%. Like there's no changing of that. So in 2019, when I wrote the book, I was teaching at George Brown College, and all the students were talking about they don't know how to network. So it was really about how to network itself, how to connect with people because they needed to learn that. That was 2019. However, between now, 2019 and 2026, the world has changed. Like literally, and something fundamentally broke. Like, seriously, I'm really shocked. 7 out of 10. That's huge, like massive. And I can see why, right? AI can clone a voice or a person in like 2 seconds, right? Like deep fakes are sitting on the video calls all the time. And just to let everyone know, Vicky and I are both real. My hair
We
is
are real people.
yeah. My hair's not perfect. Itself. And so I really wanted to write the second book was because I wanted to teach people. So the first edition was to teach people how to connect. The second edition is about how to connect safely.
Mm.
More same new guardrail, like the new guardrails, because the digital validation part of it about are you talking to the right person? Are you really talking to them? Like, for example, I actually had an investment banker that wanted to do a phone call. This is money, my investment income or whatever it is. And I was like, huh. So I said, let's arrange a Zoom call or whatever it is. He goes, we don't do that. And I go, wait a minute. What do you mean you don't do that? Why am I going to try? Anyways, and back then, and this is the funny part is, then I used to think Zoom of having a video call was safe, right? Now I can't do that because I was writing about how this, an engineering firm literally wire transferred $30 million because he got a video call from his CEO asking to transfer it. It was a deep fake. And because he didn't validate it. So back then, you heard about dating and that catfishing. MTV did that whole thing about catfishing, like you never knew who you were. It's happening in the professional world, and we're not actually aware of how much professional catfishing is actually happening out there. So the idea when me writing the second edition was not to make money. It's not at all. In fact, my ebook is $3 on March the 8th because I want to remind women we still don't get paid enough on the dollar and itself. Really, it's to bring the awareness about professional catfishing for us to make sure that we are protecting ourselves when we're connecting. And because we do need to sell and connect and relationship build for regardless where you're trying to go, whether it's looking for a job or a seat on a board or any type of thing. But how do you make sure you're not being taken advantage of? And I didn't, like I said, I didn't write to make money. I just wanted to bring awareness because I have watched people I love literally get scammed out of money, get scammed out of their reputations, right? Like, that cancel culture, because one, they got so many of those highlight reels because again, people are, attention deficit disorder, itself. So that little 15-second clip was enough for them to make a decision on something when really you needed to look a little bit deeper behind all that to get the full context. So that is something like why I've kind of written this. The world has changed. Our habits need to change a little bit more to actually pause before really kind of saying yes to something, giving something, doing something, or whatever it is, because the scammers out there have really figured out our human behavior, that we're too busy to pay attention. We're in the let's get stuff done versus anything else. So, it's really kind of a hard thing in a lesson. So that's what I wanted to bring that awareness about all the different types of use cases, and that professional catfishing is no longer just limited to dating apps. It literally is happening in our professional world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple incidents myself just in the last few weeks. One example, I had an email come through, and I mean, I've got really good blocks, I would say, in my system. But this one came through, and it was talking about my intellectual property, and it was very much about, you know, you're trademarking your name for somebody else, and you have so much time to notify us if you want to contest this. And I was like, and I did have this happen to me years ago, which is why I changed my business name. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I didn't click on anything. So, audience listening, do not click. Whatever you do, do not click. So I forwarded it to my IP lawyer, and I said, what do you think of this? I said, my radar is saying something's off. And his response was very quick. And he said, they are absolutely phishing. And he sent me an article. I can't remember now who it was, but he said, um, this is not legit, Vicky. He said, I'm glad you caught it, blah, 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 blah. That's just one example. I had another one, which again seems super like innocent. And it was, oh, Vicky, we would love for you to come on and join us on our podcast. And it was all fake, Sapna. And so maybe you could share some examples of those are two that's just happened to me recently. But how, like, my kids are always like, Mom, don't click, don't touch, don't.
I do the same
But
thing
if
with
you
my
don't
parents.
have that, like, how do you know and trust, to your point? I mean, that's what I'm studying. And trust is, we're at a tipping point in society where we don't trust, whether it's politically, technologically, from medical, like, we're questioning everything, and things we just naturally took for granted in the past. We're all now on hypervigilance mode of saying, whoa, wait a second. So maybe just give a couple of tips on how people, you know, can red flag things quicker, or the pause is important, but what else can they do?
Oh, 100%. Like, here's a perfect example that just happened to one of my clients. So the CEO and I were actually we're revamping some of the parts of the organization. And somebody had messaged me and said, hey, I know this client that you're working with has this really cool role. Can you let me know about it? So I'm sitting there talking to the CEO. I go, wait a minute, I know all the roles. I thought, like, where did this role? He's like, that's not one of my roles. So I'm like, huh. So basically, it goes back to this company that put a bunch of fake job roles with, the company logos in there because people are job hunting. Everyone is scared is job hunting. So what do?
Yes.
They upload their resumes. What's on your resume? Your resume has literally your phone number, your email address, your other types of information in there, right? Whatever it is, right? Like, there's a lot of actual personal, private information that's sitting in there. Some people still put their date of birth. So right there. So when I say to people when they're job hunting, if you go to an independent type of thing, you need to verify that it's actually on the company's website as well. Don't verify just because of one link. Look at multiple different sources to validate that it is what it is. Now,
Great
let me
point.
take the scam even further. So when you uploaded that, what did they do with your phone number? They sold it. They sold your phone number, they sold your email address, and you sold all. So all of a sudden, I'm getting all these texts. Are you looking for a job? Are you looking for this? Are you getting that? Right? Like, all of these times, apparently I can make a lot of money doing remote working for only 2 hours a day. Right?
Wow.
It's like the Nigerian prince, email has taken a new type of thing, right? So when you see something, look for other independent places to verify it. And I tend to throw things into ChatGPT and da 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 da, going, is this person reputable? What's the reviews out there? Da 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 da. Any writer, right? Like, I use that to kind of help me kind of look at it to see whether or not I'm going to do any of that. So that's a really easy story that literally is happening in all of our text messages itself. And you're right, Vicky. Do not ever click on the link. Like, I've literally have banned my mother from ever doing that itself.
Yes, likewise.
And I've actually put software on her phone that actually kind of monitors some of these things too. But the other thing is that, somebody I loved was doing investment. Like I said, they were doing some investment stuff, and everything on LinkedIn looked amazing. The person was polished, lots of connections, all of this stuff, right? All of these weird like types of articles were written. Again, remember, deep fakes, right, are out there. So anyways, they took the business and they said, oh, you know what? Instead of doing an email, let's do it on WhatsApp. So my dad started doing this on WhatsApp. Really? How many professional companies do it on a WhatsApp, an informal, unsecured channel, right? Like these are the flags of the, because they know all of us use Instagram or a Telegram or WhatsApp because it's easier to do things or whatever it is. But what company would ever take that off of their actual site, right? And not use their email address and so on. Now, I'm not saying that everything is like fake everywhere. Like companies like LinkedIn, they are taking steps because they are realizing a lot of this type of things. Like they now have a verification badge that goes through a third party, a company, or whatever it is. It's not perfect, but it's a real signal. Like even my AI certification that I got from Cornell, there actually is a digital certification that you can click on my LinkedIn that goes right to their website that they're validating. Yes, Sapna Malhotra has the AI certification that came from Cornell University, right? So companies are doing this a little bit more differently. Like if you do banking, you're going to see them asking you three, four times, is it really you, right? Like they really are trying to do it, but it is irritating because we got used to, hey, quick, 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 quick. But it is going back to that everyone is slowing down because the impact is so big. Because the scammers aren't going for the people that need something. They are going for the ones that have a reputation, the credibility, the network, the capital, right? All of those. And they are looking for those types of polished people that, itself. Like, here's another one that happened, and it happened in Canada during COVID. A lot of students were paying, foreign students were paying a company inside of wherever to help them get into universities and colleges and getting those visas all sorted out. They paid the money for it. Then they traveled all the way here just to find out, no, they're not accepted to the college, not accepted to the university, right? Like, so they're really looking at the people that are looking for opportunities and exploiting them because they're looking for that. And that really sucks because, everyone's trying to make things better for themselves and all that. And then you've got this that's happening at the same time. And that's where you need to really make sure that, I call it like a 5C type of thing. Like, look at the person that's connected, right? If it's on LinkedIn. Do you know two? I'm not asking 200. Do you know two people that are really connected to them, and then ping them to say, gee, recommend them. Have you done business with them? Because a lot of times people also connect on LinkedIn just for accept, because they want the volume of people. So you do need to kind of just check, right? That credibility. People polish and put articles out there. So take a look. Where did that article come from? Is
Yes.
it a real company? Is it a real organization? Is it a real institution, right? Like, is that really something that they did? Can you verify it, right? Like, those are the things that you kind of need to stop and look at, is to really kind of, who are you doing business with, or who are you talking to? The advice I often give to people is, because I'm dating all the time, is like, if you were like out there in the dating market, or your sister was, or your best friend, what advice would you give them? Would you say, hey, because that man just messaged you that you go to that restaurant and you just meet them? No, you'd be like, let me know where you're going. Make sure it's in a public
Yes.
space. Have you found some more information? Right? Like, you would not let them do those things and do that. You
Yeah.
know, Here's another scary story. And this one actually makes me super angry because it happened to a woman, and it really pisses me off because, sorry, listeners, I said something.
Okay.
Okay. But this woman was doing some things in the AI world, and she found this guy, and they were partnering and collaborating. They've been collaborating for months. He was taking care of the VC money and the funding and the stories and whatever it is. And she was just supposed to build the actual IP and the frameworks, whatever it is, so this guy can go pitch it. This is what was going on for months. For months. Guess what he did? He got the VC money, took her IP, and because they didn't sign a contract together. And right? Like, because you think that they're going to do this and all that, right? We need to start protecting ourselves in a very different type of way, a little bit more. And, not just be the nice girls or the good girls, or, whatever it is be the business girl that knows, I need that contract. I need to know what that is, right? That risk awareness, like, and not be that, hey, just planning for the happy path. Also plan for the unhappy path. What if this goes wrong? What if this does this? Like, if you were going to invest in a company and you don't know they are, but you think they're legit, don't give them $1 million. Give them $5 or $100 and see what they could do. Right? And
Yeah.
slowly
No,
build
it's
that.
true.
Right? So that's kind of where it is. But like I said, companies are starting to really do things a little bit more differently. It's not perfect, and there's a lot more stuff that needs to get done, but it's a real signal that companies are becoming aware, because ultimately they're liable. But secondly, they're losing their own customers' trust, right? Where are you going to go? You're going to go to your competitor that they can trust a little bit more, right? So that's where a lot of this tipping point is really coming.
Yeah. Well, and a couple of things I'm taking from what you just said there is if something feels off, most likely it is. If something feels too good to be true, most likely it is. So do your due diligence, do your homework, slow it down long enough to go back. And, I love, and I do exactly what you just said. I will go check multiple sources to validate. And even with that though, that can be because I was invited to come and do a speaking leadership talk, let's say. And I don't know, something felt really like it was lovely and flattering and all these things. But then I was like, something feels off. And so I kept pushing them to have a Zoom call, to your point. And they were like, oh, well, we're happy to do a WhatsApp. And I was like, I don't know. Something just told me it didn't feel right. And it was too good to be true. And so I kept pushing them. And by the way, this was a religious congregation that was looking for when you go online and you look them up, it all looks legit.
Yeah.
Even the pastor of the congregation, they had 600 members supposedly. When you went and looked them up, everything looked legit and it was all fake. And so you have to do your due diligence. It's to be risk aware, as you said, and never give money, right? Think about when somebody's resisting having a call where you can see them, like those are all red flags. So Sapna, this is fascinating. We could talk for hours and hours.
I know. I'm such a geek about this.
Well, and I know you have a free webinar coming up in May. Can you talk about that a little bit? And we'll definitely put, that in the show notes. But what can they learn through that free session?
So the free webinar is just really about professional catfishing and giving some use cases about there to bring that awareness out there. Because it is happening in so many places. And once you know and you see, like now when you hear about it because you become aware, you will start seeing it in multiple different places. So one of the things that we do on the webinar is that we're going to do like what I call the Google test. And again, it's going incognito. Just type your name. And every time I do this with anybody, half the room is like, ha, 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 and the other half goes completely silent. They didn't know that that picture was up about them. They didn't know that they were still, associated with a certain thing, right? Like they didn't realize. But so do it in incognito mode because it's actually really fascinating with what you see. But don't do it like just normal Google, right? Do it the other side of that, right? Because you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. And then, the other thing is that you're going to get is that what I call about the verification habits itself, because it's like building muscle memory. So I'm going to give you a couple of those tips about how you can implement those right away. And then a checklist of things that you can kind of put there. Like you said, if it's too good to be true, it is, right? Like if something is free, what is the cost of it? So that's why I'm very transparent. I don't care anything. I will probably get your email address to give you some of the things, but it's just to bring truly the awareness so that we can actually ask for more controls from our companies, more controls from the government, more controls on all this different stuff that we need to demand. We need to demand higher standards. So it's really about bringing that to the table itself, because if we don't say something, they're going to continue to operate or whatever it is. And we as a voice, as a community, need to be doing this. And that's the other thing too. We talk about connection and all that. A community is the most important thing. Like I can't even imagine how many times, like our little groups that we have, like, hey, do you know somebody does this or this, right? Everything's based on referrals of who do you know and who do you do. And so really making sure that you've got that protection, but really helping each other to kind of go, just, the blinds, did you double check this? Or did you da-da-da-da-da? Like being that friend that you need really at the end of the day. So it's a 45-minute webinar. You get a bunch of different things, but it's really about bringing in the awareness so that you can tell others. You can tell not just your spouse, but your nieces, your nephews, your kids, because as they are coming into the working world, no one has taught them these things,
Yes.
right? And it's again, I do everything for my nieces and nephew, like everything, because I am so worried about the world that they're going to walk into. And, and because they're so fascinated with the stuff I do all the time, so that this makes them kind of A, connect with me, and two, get curious about me, but understand these types of things itself, right? Because we are on the slowest part of change. Remember, compound interest. So if we don't start building these trust verification habits as a daily type of practice, then it's going to get harder and harder and harder. And you may have lost so much more than you've ever realized because you didn't stop for a couple of minutes just to kind of, be that healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Awesome. Okay. And so I know if the webinar is coming up in May, there's also one in June. So if you miss one of those, you can catch into one of those. Or Sapna, how can people reach you if they have questions and they're not able to join on the webinar?
Well, they can email me anytime. So I'll send you my email address. And then the second thing is that, I'm going to record it because I've already got people asking me to record the session. So I'll find a place to put it, probably on my website or whatever it is, so that you can be able to, watch on a replay. And the other thing is that, I'm even bringing more awareness down to the women in, itself, because a lot of women are not using AI to help them with their busy lives and schedules because of their own skepticism, and rightfully so. And by the way, here's another thing that's not a great story to tell, but it is a reality of the world. Men are using it everywhere and they don't get deemed as anything. But when women seem to use it and get, and they find out at work that they're using it or whatever it is, there's a double standard that happens, right? Like
always
right?
double bind.
Always like itself. So it's kind of like, so they don't want to ask for help and they don't want to talk about it and they, don't want to fake it or whatever it is. So I'm even showing people how to use, like, for example, how to network using AI with these kind of, trust inside of it. And Vicky, like, your members get 15% off because it's your community and, itself. But it's really about, it's over 2 days, 2 hours. It's actually a working session so that you can actually not just have a networking strategy that you can do, but more importantly, how do you have those blinders itself and making it actionable, because no one has time to network. No one has time to do these things. And it really makes a big difference of being able to use and learn to use these tools, because you will get left behind. AI is moving fast. Women are already the slowest adopters. But is the difference between AI and humans itself. That's where women come into place. So I really believe that right now is the most important time for especially women to play around it in a way that helps them in a meaningful and still be risk aware, because we need to change the world, because they need us. They need our voice more now than ever before.
Yes.
And like I said, I think it's time for women to rule the world.
Okay, audience, you heard that. Sapna is expecting big things from all of us. So take a look at the show notes. We'll have all the links there for you so that you can join that free webinar May and June. This is 2026 because these episodes stay live for a long, long time. So it's May, June of 2026. And I just want to thank you, Sapna, for being here and sharing all this incredible information. I think it's so important and so timely with where we are in the world. So thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me, and thank you so much. Like, Vicky, like, let's go change the world, because it is time.
Ready. And audience, thank you for being here. We know you have a choice as to what you listen to. So thanks so much for chiming in. Would love to hear your thoughts. Would love to, how are you engaging with AI, or what are things that you've seen on that dark side that Sapna talked about, or the shadow side to AI? We'd love to hear your comments. And if you're interested in learning more about how you're showing up as a leader, be sure to check out our free leadership quiz on Women in Leadership Empowered. It'll give you a lot of insight as to what your default tendencies might be or where you're excelling. And we all want to know where we're excelling. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you on the next Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thanks again, Sapna.
Thank you again.
Thank you for joining us for Will Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.willempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.